The rifle was already warm against her shoulder when the doors of the docking bay slid open. Captain S.E. Len of the Virexi Concorde adjusted her stance by a fraction of a degree, compensating for the station's weak artificial gravity. Her compound eyes tracked the lone figure stepping through the vapor mist. Bipedal. Soft-skinned. Human. Target confirmed. Her visor highlighted his chest in pulsing red, the translator whispering biometric data directly into her auditory nerve. Heart rate elevated but steady. Adrenaline present, but not overwhelming. No visible weapons. No armor. Just a plain gray jacket and a datapad clutched loosely in one hand. "Take the shot," the commander hissed over the squad channel. "End it." Esalen tightened her finger on the trigger. She had killed hundreds across 3 star systems. Pirates. Insurrectionists. Slavers. The rifle had never shaken before. But now, as her reticles settled over the human's heart, a tremor rippled down her arm. She froze. The human stopped walking, as if he sensed her hesitation. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his empty hand. "I know you're there," he said calmly, his voice echoing through the bay. "If you're going to kill me, at least let me finish my job." Her squad erupted with angry clicks and hisses. "Captain, he's stalling. Shoot him." Esalen swallowed. She didn't know why she activated her external speaker instead of firing. "What job?" she demanded. The human looked directly at her position, somehow piercing the camouflage field with those unsettling forward-facing eyes. "Saving your station." The beginning. An unlikely enemy. Station Kepri. 9 hung in the void like a wounded beast. Once a thriving trade hub between the Virexi Concorde and neutral systems, it was now silent, its lights flickering irregularly. Long-range scans suggested catastrophic power failures, internal fires, and something else. Something wrong. The Concorde had dispatched SAELN's strike team with a simple mission: eliminate the human engineer believed to be responsible. Humans were new to this region of space. Loud. Reckless. Unpredictable. The Concorde tolerated them only because they were useful. But when Kepri 9 went dark mere hours after a human vessel docked, suspicion turned into certainty. SLN herself had reviewed the footage. The human, designation Elias Mercer, had argued with station administrators about safety protocols, emergency overrides, and structural weaknesses. He had been dismissed, laughed at, escorted away. 3 hours later, the station's core went critical. Now he stood alone in the bay, surrounded by Concorde soldiers with weapons trained on him. "Explain," SLN said, forcing her voice to remain steady. Elias exhaled slowly. "The station's fusion regulators were installed wrong. I tried to tell them. The resonance feedback was building toward a cascade failure. I came back to fix it." "By sabotaging the core?" she snapped. "No," he replied. "By stopping it from tearing the station apart." Her visor flagged his words as truthful with a 72% probability. Too high to ignore. Too low to trust. "You have 1 minute," SLN said. "Speak." The middle. The weight of a human heart. Elias walked forward, unflinching as blaster muzzles tracked his every step. He knelt beside a maintenance hatch and tapped rapidly on his datapad, projecting schematics into the air. "The station's core uses triphasic containment," he explained. "Elegant design. But whoever calibrated it didn't account for harmonic drift over time. The longer it ran, the more unstable it became." SELN's mandibles twitched. She had studied engineering theory as part of her officer training. What he said made sense. Too much sense. "So you overloaded it?" she asked. "I forced a shutdown," Elias said. "A messy one. Fires. Power loss. But controlled. If I hadn't, the core would have breached." You wouldn't have a station to reclaim. Her squad murmured uneasily. And now? Esalen asked. Now the core's locked in a partial stasis, he replied. I'm the only one who knows the sequence to restart it safely. The station's life support is failing. Thousands of your people are trapped inside. The commander's voice cut in sharply. Captain, do not listen to him. Humans deceive. Esalen's hand still hovered over the trigger. The tremor had not stopped. If you're lying, she said, you die. Elias nodded once. Fair. Against protocol. Against instinct. Against everything she had been trained to do, Esalen lowered her rifle. Escort him, she ordered. Weapons hot. The commander protested, but Esalen cut the channel. They moved through darkened corridors filled with smoke and emergency lighting. Virexi civilians huddled in alcoves, their compound eyes wide with fear. Children clung to parents. Elders gasped beneath failing respirators. Elias moved quickly, prying open panels, rerouting power, sealing ruptured conduits with improvised tools. His hands were burned, his breathing ragged, but he did not slow. Why? Esalen asked as they descended toward the core chamber. Why risk yourself for us? He didn't look at her. Because you're alive. That answer struck harder than any weapon. The core of the matter. The fusion core chamber was a cathedral of light and shadow. Energy arced across containment rings, unstable and screaming. Warning glyphs flooded Esalen's visor. Elias stepped onto the maintenance platform, sweat streaming down his face. Once I start this, he said, I'll need cover. The feedback could be lethal. Esalen signaled her squad into defensive positions. Captain, one of her soldiers whispered privately, this is madness. Stand fast, she replied. Elias began the sequence. The core roared. Energy surged, containment fields flaring dangerously. Elias shouted numbers and commands, his hands flying across controls too fast for Esalen to follow. A sudden explosion rocked the chamber. A support strut collapsed, sending a shard of superheated metal hurtling toward him. Esalen reacted without thinking. She lunged forward, shoving Elias out of the way. The shard tore through her shoulder armor, searing flesh beneath. Pain exploded through her nervous system. She staggered but did not fall. Elias stared at her, stunned. Why would you? Finish it, she snarled. Now. He obeyed. With a final, thunderous pulse, the core stabilized. Lights surged back to life throughout the station. Life support indicators turned green one by one. The screaming stopped. Silence fell. The end, when enemies become legends. Medical teams arrived moments later. Esalen was restrained, her wound treated with efficiency and care. Elias collapsed onto the deck, utterly exhausted. The commander arrived soon after, fury barely contained. You disobeyed orders, he hissed at Sun. You protected a human. You jeopardized the mission. Esalen rose painfully to her feet. I completed the mission. The station is saved. The human is still alive, the commander snapped. He must be executed. Elias struggled to stand, clearly ready to accept his fate. Esalen stepped between him and the firing squad. No, she said. The chamber went silent. He saved the station, she continued. He saved our people. By Concord law, a life debt is owed. The commander scoffed. He is human. They are beneath. Enough, Esalen said, her voice echoing with authority. If you wish to challenge my judgment, do so formally. Until then, Captain Elias Mercer is under my protection. The commander hesitated. Slowly, reluctantly, he backed down. Days later, Kepri, 9 buzzed with life once more. Repairs continued, trade resumed, and rumors spread. A human who saved a Concorde station. A Verexi captain who lowered her weapon. Len stood at the observation window as Elias prepared to depart. His ship was small, battered, clearly held together by stubbornness and ingenuity. "Your people will remember this," she said. He smiled faintly. "So will mine." As his ship vanished into hyperspace, Len flexed her healed arm. The tremor was gone. For the first time in her long military career, she understood something profound. Humans were fragile. Their bodies broke easily. Their lives burned fast. But when it mattered most, when the universe itself seemed ready to collapse, a human heart did not know how to surrender. And that, she realized, made them the most dangerous allies the galaxy would ever know. The official inquiry lasted 3 cycles. Len stood alone in the Chamber of Judgment, her injured arm newly regenerated beneath pale sin skin, her posture rigid despite exhaustion. Around her, the High Council of the Verexi Concorde observed in silence, their bioluminescent crests pulsing in slow, thoughtful rhythms. They reviewed everything. The weapon logs that showed she had not fired. The station records confirming Elias Mercer's intervention had prevented total annihilation. The casualty projections that estimated over 40,000 Verexi lives saved. When the final projection faded, the chamber grew still. "You defied a direct execution order," intoned High Arbiter Cachere. "Such defiance has ended careers and lives." Len inclined her head. "I accept responsibility." Yet, the Arbiter continued, "Had you followed that order, Station Kepri, 9 would now be a debris field." A pause. "Captain Eson," Cachere said at last, "your actions stand in violation of protocol and in absolute alignment with survival." The verdict echoed through the chamber. She was stripped of no rank. Instead, she was reassigned. The Concorde announced a new initiative weeks later, Human, Verexi Cooperative Command. Officially, it was a diplomatic experiment. Unofficially, it was an admission. Humans were no longer to be treated as unpredictable assets or tolerated nuisances. They were to be studied, understood, and, when possible, trusted. Elias Mercer became the first human consultant assigned to the program. He did not celebrate the title. He spent his days crawling through failing infrastructure, arguing with admirals, rewriting safety doctrines that had not changed in centuries. He slept little, ate less, complained constantly, and saved lives relentlessly. Len often watched him from observation decks or command balconies, still unsettled by how easily he moved among her people. Verexi engineers initially scoffed at his suggestions. Then they saw the results. Systems stabilized. Failure rates dropped. Disasters simply stopped happening. "Your species does not rest," she said to him once, during a rare, quiet cycle. Elias laughed tiredly. "We rest when things stop breaking." She considered that. In the Concorde, we rest when orders are complete. He met her gaze. "That's the difference." Years later, when the first joint fleet faced annihilation at the hands of an extragalactic threat, historians would trace their survival back to Kepri 9. Back to a single moment. A single breath. A single trembling hand. Len commanded the vanguard during that war, her strategies informed not only by doctrine, but by something far rarer among the Concorde. Empathy. Human tactics baffled enemy fleets. Retreats that were traps. Sacrifices that saved millions. Crews that fought not for glory, but for each other. The galaxy learned quickly. Do not mistake softness for weakness. Do not confuse hesitation with fear. And never assume that a human's shaking hand means they lack resolve. On the 10th anniversary of Kepri 9 salvation, Len visited the restored docking bay, where it had all begun. A small plaque had been installed at her request. No names, no ranks, just words, translated into a dozen languages. Here, a weapon was lowered. Here, a choice was made. Here, the galaxy changed. As she stood there, alone, Esalen realized something that still unsettled her. The most powerful moment of her life had not been a victory in battle. It had been mercy. And somewhere beyond the stars, she knew, a human engineer with scarred hands and a stubborn heart would understand exactly why her aim had faltered. Because sometimes, the bravest act in the universe is not pulling the trigger, but choosing not to.